Hello and welcome. I am Jamil Khoury, co-founder and executive artistic director of Chicago's Silk Road Cultural Center. I am thrilled to be in conversation today with a longtime friend, colleague, and collaborator of ours, Atra Asdou. Atra has written an extraordinary new play called Iraq But Funny that is receiving its world premiere this summer at Chicago's Lookingglass Theater. Having read the play, I must say Chicago audiences are in for a treat. Actually, more than a treat, a full-blown feast. Iraq But Funny, and I so love that title, spans 5 generations of Assyrian women, from Baghdad to Chicagoland. It is funny, smart, moving, and a whole lot more. Atra Asdou, it is a pleasure and honor to welcome you to our Silk Road Zoom universe.
It's a pleasure and honor to be in this Silk Road Zoom universe with you, Jamil. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Moving into our first question. My father was from Syria. We are Syrians, but not Assyrians. Your parents are from Iraq, and they are Assyrians or Iraqi Assyrians. Now, I understand that we're talking about a civilization that stretches back at least 4,500 years. But how would you describe the Assyrian people? Who are the Assyrians?
I feel like I like being Assyrian. When you introduce yourself, when if you're someone with a name like mine, that's not a very common name. Often people ask like, "What is that? Where is that from?" And so I really appreciate this question. I feel like Assyrians will relate to the fact that like we always have to come with a history lesson. So here we go. But how I would describe the Assyrians. Now, first and foremost, we are not a monolith. So this is how I would describe us. We are descendants of the ancient Sumerians, Akkadians, and Assyrians. Assyrians also include Chaldeans and Syriacs, if folks are familiar with those peoples. Though there are individuals who may claim that those are separate. While they are our kin, we are not Arab or Kurdish, Turkish, or Persian. Those are our cousins. We are a distinct indigenous group, and we're native to the lands that everyone knows today as Iraq, Iran, Syria, and Turkey. And some Assyrians might group themselves with religious and have it be a one-to-one. For me, Assyrian is an ethnicity. It is not a religion, although you might hear us called Iraqi Christians or insert Middle Eastern country here, Christians. We like to be called Assyrians, though. Primary religions are like Eastern Orthodox, or Chaldeans, for example, grew up as Catholic, Syriacs in the Syriac Orthodox Church. There's Assyrians who identify as Jewish or non-secular, agnostic, atheist, pagan. And so, yeah, Assyrian is an ethnicity, not a religion. And I'm happy to be Assyrian.
Well, you are a wonderful spokesperson for the Assyrians. So
I hope so.
thank you for that.
Of course.
And it is, 4,500 years of history at least.
At least, yeah. We just celebrated on April 1st we have 12 days of Akitu, which is, I think, starts 12 days before April 1st, and it culminates on the new year for us on April 1st, which actually just got recognized. April just got recognized as a Syrian Heritage Month in Illinois, so that's exciting. On April 1st of this year, I believe it was 6,775 was the year we're celebrating.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, thank you for that. So I was doing some online research and
there's so many different sources.
Great. So almost 7,000 years. So we at Silk Road know you as an actor and now as a playwright. How does your Assyrian culture and heritage inspire and influence your art making?
It's kind of a one-to-one. My parents are very proud Assyrian folks. My dad is an Assyrian visual artist. He's a surrealist painter. So like since I was a kid, I'd help him with gallery showings within our community. He'd be like, I need to title my pieces, hop on Windows 95 Word document and do the right size and let's type this out. So I would help him label his artwork. And so art inspiration and influence is kind of intertwined with my identity. And it's also a part of me, and playwriting and especially acting, you use whatever is within you to connect to whatever is outside of you. And help the audience thereby connect to it as well. So in that way, it's intertwined, and it influences my art making, just being who I am. I also think about like having been someone who is often the only one of my background, and now more recently, and thankfully, one of few or one of a growing amount of few of people in a room. It means that through my art and influences, I've learned to relate and like learn other languages, sometimes literally and sometimes culturally and sometimes like departmentally working in the theater as a playwright too, of like learning different languages and different aspects of everyone's artistic medium. So in that way, it's grown my empathy and understanding, and that's influenced how I make art and move through the world too.
Wonderful. Well, and is Iraq But Funny your first play?
So Iraq but fun, Iraq. I will say Iraq but funny. Iraq but funny. So like I had a mini cult, like a mini identity breakdown. Iraq but funny is my first full length production outside of college. I had written some plays in college, some short plays, and a full length play that had like a 2-week workshop that we did where we tried to put together a production of it. But professionally, this is my first full-length play. And of course, I wrote at the Second City. I did sketches and developed sketches for reviews on the ETC stage. But as far as a traditional play, beginning, middle, end, couple-hour event, this is the first one.
Well, I have to say it's astonishing. And if I did not know you and I sat down and read this play, I would think you are a veteran playwright.
Oh,
So
thank you.
uh,
That's such a high compliment considering how many productions and plays you've helped develop and like seen and just embodied and put into the world too. So thank you so much, Jamil.
oh, absolutely. So moving to our next question. Over the centuries, Syrians have suffered more than their share of persecution from their Turkish, Kurdish, Arab, and Persian neighbors, as well as from the British Empire, and most recently from ISIS, the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria. Assyrians have been persecuted as a minoritized ethnic and linguistic community. They've been persecuted as Christians, and they've been persecuted as a people with legitimate territorial claims. Genocides, pogroms, land theft, systemic discrimination. Assyrians have suffered it all and continue to be persecuted in their ancestral homeland. You've written this play, Iraq But Funny. It is a comedy, and yet it doesn't shy away from exploring trauma. How does the inherited trauma within the Assyrian experience affect your storytelling?
There's no doubt there's inherited trauma. I mean, I notice it every morning when I'm scarfing my breakfast down quickly, like someone's after me and I'm standing up eating. Like it's just in DNA. It's hard to relax. And I think a lot of Assyrians and folks who have been through oppressions in various generations, previous generations, can identify that if they have a moment, to have that privilege of reflection. It's hard to relax. However, there's also inherited resilience. And along with the pain, the genocides, and the fears that governments have definitely um, inflicted and made okay for people to inflict. Um, Along with those more fear-based reactions and traumas, there's also storytelling, inherited storytelling and songs, music, laughter, painting. These have all been forms of expression that have been passed down in our DNA too, and taught to us by our elders too. So when I tell an Assyrian story, I feel like my processing, my personal processing, is through comedy and through connectivity. And so I don't know if it so much affects as it is they exist together. Um, I think growing up Assyrian, and part of the reason why I wanted to make it Iraq, but funny, is because my relatives are some of the funniest people I know, and they've been also through some of the hardest, like unimaginable things I've heard of, and so I do think they're intertwined and they exist together. And I am very much a firm believer in that, like that DNA or trauma gets passed down through our DNA. The scientific claim that it's 6 generations worth of effect. Like one trauma will affect 6 generations, and so imagine having every generation be affected, and then that expanding forward. So yeah, I think it's intertwined, and I think, you know, I can sit here and wonder what I would be like if I didn't have that familial trauma, but I don't know how to even imagine that necessarily. They are intertwined. Yeah. Did I answer or did I go on a
Well,
tangent?
beautifully, and I think that's so profound. It really it comes through in the play, and what you just said about your relatives who've endured so much trauma and hardship and sadness, and yet that ability to laugh, to celebrate, to have parties.
Mhm.
I felt that there was a certain seamlessness in your writing. That attachment on the one hand, that consciousness of everything you've inherited, but also that that really inspiring resilience that you speak of, that Assyrians are still here and Assyrians, thrive and make art and tell stories. And yeah, so thank you. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Yeah, of course. And of course we're not alone in our struggles, which is an unfortunate statement to have to say. But yeah, I think that's also what makes the story something I'm really proud of is with this play in particular is we've had some share outs as I've workshopped it, and the very first time it got seen was at a Lookingglass event. I had shared just a couple of scenes from a very early draft. This was in 2023, and I'd been writing it since 2021. And so the first time I heard it out loud was in front of this audience, aside from like the rehearsal room that we did for these 2 scenes. And aside from sweating through my suit jacket, I found that audiences from all different backgrounds were coming up to me and saying, like, this is my family's story too. And oh my gosh, I relate to this so much. And I see myself in this so much. And that truly is like the most touching thing is not only do I want Assyrians to see themselves, it is my great hope that folks see themselves in us and we humanize each other too.
I would imagine this has been a cathartic experience for you, and perhaps painful and difficult along the way. And if that's something you may want to reflect on.
I think the catharsis hasn't yet happened. It's still in it's still being experienced. It's still being exercised with an O, like a demon. Because we're presently in rehearsals. We're in the second week of rehearsals, but I've spent so much time with this play that I really don't know what it's going to be like on closing night. I think that'll hit me. Oftentimes with plays, even ones I haven't written or anything, like in productions, closing night, everyone's always like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna miss this. And I'm always like, okay. And then 2 weeks later, I'm like on a delay. 2 weeks later, I'm sitting on the edge of my bed, waking up in the morning going, oh, it's over. Like, or oh, it came out, like all the feelings of it have been purged. So I'm very much in the throes of it. And I too am interested to see how it feels. It's definitely connected me to my parents. I've called them up. It made me wish every day. I wish that my grandma was here, not just to see it, but to talk to her about the things that I'm writing and to get her ideas about it. And so in that way, it's been cathartic to connect outside of myself with family members, with various Assyrians in the community as well. So yes, short answer, yes, and still in the process of catharticizing, whatever the active version of cathartic is.
And I can only imagine, I mean, even let's, fast forward X number of years, that will still, there will be a resonance, there will be that connection because it's so personal.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's a very ambitious undertaking, 5 generations essentially uh,
Yeah.
of your family's story. And so, what compelled you? It's brilliant. It's beautiful. It's all of these things, but it is deeply your own. So, what compelled you to write this as a play? What were was there a catalyzing moment or motivating factors?
With Lookingglass Theater, at the time in 2021, I was an artistic associate, and then I graduated up to ensemble member just this past year. But artistic associates and ensemble members, Lookingglass produces primarily its own work, and so we generate plays, we generate movement pieces, we generate events, and so every year the New Works department sends out a submission call. And so the call was, even if it's a little seedling of an idea, you kind of scrawled on a napkin one day or have kicking around in your brain. Or if it's like a Dostoevsky novel you've been working on adapting for the last 30 years, pitch it. And let's see where it goes. So that was, I think, the true catalyst for me to take all of these stories that have been living inside of me and living inside of the last 5 generations and shared with me through my nana and through my parents and through aunts and uncles and cousins who came through. Those two kind of events merged together. And so that the inciting event was having a place to put them, having an offer of hey, here's a place to put something, and then having all those things within me wanting to write them down. I think that what was most important to me was telling a story about folks from the Middle East or the Swana region, as we say now, that was not necessarily a tragedy or military-based story, because I've been in those shows. There's nothing wrong with those shows. It's just that there are a lot of those shows, and I know a different side to my people. So that was another important factor, hence the Iraq, but funny. Growing up, I shared a room with my nana, and she was one of my besties. And she would share all sorts of stories with me about her mom, too, about her grandma and her mom surviving the Ottoman genocide. How, she was living in a village. My grandma was living in a village when her youngest son got struck with fever, and the doctor was in the next village over, and she had to cross this big field where this mean ox was. Like, all sorts of stories. And she passed away in 2012. And so I remember when she passed away, I felt compelled to just write in my journal all the stories she's ever told me that I could remember so I wouldn't forget them. And something important to me, as I realized this only recently, was I always knew she was illiterate. I would teach her ABCs and 1, 2, 3s, and we taught her how to write her name too. And it was always a big thing for her that we get education. And my mom too, my parents would push education because my mom only had a 5th grade education too. I'm the first one in my immediate family to go to college, and I got a creative arts degree. Oops, sorry. Sorry, not a doctor, engineer, or lawyer. But it occurred to me this year that my Nana couldn't write these stories down. My mom probably could, but she's busy working, a labor intensive job and struggles with writing too. And so that's hit me this year of being a girl who grew up with her Nana who couldn't write anything down, but who shared stories, and myself now being a storyteller, sharing these stories in a more permanent paper, pen to paper, typeface to screen kind of way. Yeah, I feel maybe I went on a tangent there, but
No, what a beautiful way to honor your grandmother. My God. And that you wrote down her stories and that has become, I mean, you've kept her alive in many respects.
mm.
I do want to say that I'm very grateful you got that creative arts degree as
Me too.
you know.
I'd make a terrible nurse. I'm such a little I'm so squeamish. Although I have the let's go all let's take care of stuff in an emergency. I'm good. But oh my God, if someone sneezes on me or if I have to, I've been a caretaker. It's hard. It is hard. So I'm glad to be in the creative arts where I can fake being sneezed on.
The theater is all the better for it. Um, so that, and I can only imagine what this means to your parents and extended family, that their story, the collective story is going to get this kind of airing. What are you hearing? What is you know,
In the most child of immigrants way, they're very excited. But whenever I'm I need to ask you about something, they're like, oh, there's a I don't know if you could call it a phrase. There's a sound that we make that has no translation, but the closest thing I can say is uh, brackets exasperated noise is what the subtitle would read. It's oh who. So they go, oh who, what do you need from us now? So I've annoyed them, well annoyed them, but they are thrilled, they are excited, and very much in their immigrant parent way. They're not too overly excited, and I'm sure they'll have notes.
so when they are actually in the theater watching the piece,
Inshallah, yeah.
will they know it in its entirety, or will there be some surprises?
My mom came to the very first workshop that we had. She and my sister came. And it's changed a lot. It used to be a 4-hour play. Now it's much shorter. And so it's changed a bit. I cut some scenes down. I cut 4 or 5 scenes out, and streamlined the story more. So she's known it in its more expansive form, and has not seen it since. And I've described some bits to them, things I wanted to workshop to see with the what I call the Assyrian committee, my family, being like, is this going to make you upset, or is this going to make you laugh? And so just to make sure I'm doing the right thing and right by my community and my family as well, I've asked them about their opinions on things. So they'll have some idea of what things are, but they will not have seen it in full production with lights, costume, sounds, projections, dance number. This is a massive show. But I'm excited for them to see it. And I think they're going to have a good time. There's also such heartfelt moments. There are mournful songs. Some call them jinane, that are more folksy, they're essentially funeral songs, where a person is hired to sing to help people move through grief. And so there are pieces like that in it too, which are kind of heart-wrenching. And then it's off to the comedy race as we go. And then, yeah. So it's a nice mix of heart and comedy. And I think they'll be, I hope that they'll be thrilled with both.
Oh, I have no doubt. But it's something that might, to keep you up at night.
Yes.
No
Any
pressure.
child does with their parents, right? It's I grew up in Chicago. I've never stepped foot in Iraq. And so I'm sure they'll be like, Ma, you don't know. but yeah.
So you've assembled Lookingglass has assembled this very impressive artistic team for the production. Uh, Tell us who some of your artistic collaborators are and what is so special and exciting about this ensemble of artists.
Okay, I keep calling it the dream team. And we also, my director, Dalia Ashurina, also, we refer to everyone as like our ragtag team. Uh, we have folks of so many different backgrounds putting hands and hearts on the show and pouring their uh, inimitable talents into it. Something so special is it really feels like everyone's so excited about it. And like, that's just like everyone's pouring their best into it, from marketing to props to everything. Um, I think something that's really special is that we have folks with years of experience, like Lookingglass member, ensemble member Mara Blumenfeld, and Lookingglass artistic associate Chris Binder on costumes and lights, respectfully. Um, uh, Something unique for me and special is that I have an Assyrian director in Dalia Ashurina, and we have Assyrian covers in Christopher Khoshaba and Yortana Soleiman. And with Dahlia, she's also got years and years of experience. She's coming off of ADing Broadway's Sweeney Todd and being the resident director for Phantom of the Opera on Broadway. We got Christy Childs Twilley and Avi Amon sound designing and composing respectfully, brilliantly. There's a lot of sound cues. We got Omid Akbari on set design, Michael Salvatore Commendatore on projections, Amanda Herman on props, folks who have experience. And our costumes crew and our stage crew who will be on stage because we have on stage changes and set changes. We got to transport 100 years, right? From Ottoman Empire to modern day USA, Niles, Illinois. So they're involved and they'll be seen and they've been an integral part of the process too. And we also have folks who are newer to the theater, who've never worked on theater before or a little more new to the theatrical process. Our Assyrian language teacher is Ninwa Shimon, and Ninwa is an ESL teacher at Joliet College. And she also writes Assyrian language workbooks with Rinyo. It's Rino. Rinyo. I think .org is their website. She's helping our actors with the Assyrian language in the play. And we've got a choreographer, Alex Delgado, who teaches at Visceral Dance in Chicago. There's like a heels a dance class that he teaches, and he's teaching us some choreo for the show too. So that it's like the show has everything, and so we need everybody. Another special part of it is that Kareem Bendiali, who's in charge of our new works, Molly Bunder, who is in charge of education and accessibility, and Nari Savafi, who are collecting art pieces from Swan FMs, and we will have a lobby display. So the show begins even in our lobby at Lookingglass, and Lookingglass has just got this new lobby. So when you enter, it's going to be an experience, and I'm really excited for all the artists that will be displayed there from all over the Swana region and all over different backgrounds. My dad's art is also going to be displayed there. So Nepo baby, Nepo daddy, I guess. So yeah, that's all of that, like, and much more things I haven't even mentioned, make this so special and such a, like every day I'm like, wow, we have, mashallah, we have the most amazing team. And I still can't believe that this is who I get to go to work with. And we're all working on this thing together.
And an amazing cast.
Oh my God. Yeah. Hello. The cast. We're talking James Rana from Broadway, did The Band's Visit and The Tour. He was on that show for 5 years straight. Wonderful comedic actor too. I think he's got a clowning background. We got Sina Porismail, who is based out of New York, Columbia grad school, in MFA in acting, just wonderful. We've got Gloria Ismeth Petrelli, who is at Raven Theater's A Lie of the Mind, the Sam Shepard play, did an outstanding job. We've got Suzanne Jamshidi, who you know, has done Silk Road shows. I believe it was Yasmina's Necklace
Yeah.
at Silk Road, and most recently has been in the Chicago Favorite Christmas Carol as Mrs. Cratchit for the last like 6 years. And we've got her talents on the show. The covers include Tina Arfai, who is a Second City touring company member, amazing comedic chops, a wonderful person. So we've got Yortana Soleiman, who was in Happy Days Are Here Again at Steppenwolf and also did The Little Women. We've got Chris Khoshaba, who I worked with in Layalina at The Goodman as well. So yeah, our cast is stacked.
So Suzanne, Gloria, Chris, Yortana,
Yeah,
you, of course,
yeah,
Kareem Bendili. I mean,
yeah.
there's a list here of people that we've worked with and adore. And forgive me if I am forgetting or
We'll
omitting.
forgive each other. Yeah, Sina and James are based mostly out of New York, so we're happy to have them here too. Yeah.
Incredible team. And the fact that, as you've said, everyone is bringing that this is a labor of love and that
It
they are
is.
bringing so much of themselves. And, I can only imagine all the backstories coming together and how much people are connecting. I mean, I connect so much with the story and, the generational component, from my own, both my Syrian family and my Polish family. I mean, there is a lot that I can, relate to. And so I can't imagine people not having that sort of recollection and, reconnection with heritage, with roots, with ancestry.
Yeah. Yeah, I really hope so. If nothing else, I hope they laugh. I hope they have a little recollection and reconnection within themselves and release release a few ha-has for the day.
And God knows we need that.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, everyone keeps being like, Iraq, but funny. Is it okay to laugh? Yep. Yes, it is. We have to. We have to.
Everyone has permission to laugh.
Yeah, let's laugh with each other. Why not? Oh, also just shouting out our dramaturgy as well, Naisan Mujgani, who has been a critical part, as well as Kareem, in developing this play. Not only is he our dramaturg for like the historical aspects of the play, but as a new works development, like he's got such experience in developing new plays and making sure everything makes sense and like asking wonderful questions. Between him and Dahlia, the questions have been so insightful and so guiding and helpful in developing this. So it really is a development. Vane Asadourian is also our dialects coach for the Iraqi American dialects. And that was, yeah, it's just wonderful. She's currently at Drury Lane in Da Vinci Code.
Huh.
Yeah.
Okay. And I just remembered I want to also give a shout out to Nariman because we have worked with him for years. Yeah.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful.
Great. Just what a community.
Truly is. Yeah. And it takes a community. Like folks say it takes a village. It really does. This is what it feels like every single day. It really takes a village, and it's so special to be within that village and be a part of it too. Yeah.
And a village that has traveled a long way
Yeah.
in many respects when
In
we
many respects. Yeah.
think of, starting in the Ottoman Empire and where so many of us are now.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you hope audiences learn from Iraq But Funny? What is the impact that you are hoping to make with really this must-see play?
I hope we humanize each other, which is so, it feels such like a weird thing to say, but I hope they see themselves, no matter what background they are. I hope they see themselves in the story, that they come to the theater not only seeing themselves, but sitting alongside other folks who are seeing themselves and sharing in this experience. I think that is so special and something that is so specifically special to theater too. I hope they laugh. I hope Assyrians see themselves and feel recognized and like feel seen. And I hope folks not from Assyrian backgrounds feel seen too and see themselves in us.
We always like to say that we do work that is by us, about us, and for all.
Yeah.
For all is, that invitation to find yourself, to find your family story, and that has always been so rewarding in the work we've done. And I can only imagine just the once again those connections that people are going to make, just those threads of suffering and resilience, those threads of trauma and triumph.
Mm.
I think there is a lot to, there's a lot to ruminate on.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
um, so I appreciate you saying what you're saying, and I'm excited to hear about the Assyrian reaction, because it is rare that an Assyrian centered story is having this kind of high visibility production.
Yeah.
And Chicagoland has such a large community. Um, it's important to tap into that hunger for representation.
Yeah. I think that's something that when we went through auditions, that was a whole other thing that felt really special. And I won't chat too much about it, but it was really special to reach out to folks who maybe had never auditioned for theater before, and recognizing like, oh, there's there's only so few of us in the world. I think we're at like 3 million or something. And so whittling it down to the very niche thing of like theater and the arts, it really does feel nice to connect, not just with just Swana folks in general. That always feels special in a room, no matter what. But seeing other Assyrian artists too, and getting the feedback from them about what this play, what their reactions on this play was, knowing that they are in the theater, and something like this hasn't come around, or doesn't come around, hasn't been around too often. I'm seeing a change now. But yeah, I think this might be the first time the Assyrian language is spoken on a main theater stage. I might be wrong in that, but but I think it might be. So that's really special.
I have to tell you, as someone who has studied Arabic and grew up around Arabic, and I've spent a lot of time in the Middle East, I love hearing Assyrian. Uh, it's really a treat. I'm able to sort of pick out some
Yeah.
words, but it I always say it's somewhere between Arabic and Hebrew. I don't know if that's fair or
No,
accurate.
it is. They're all rooted in Aramaic. It's all Aramaic is the tree, and then we're the branches off of it. So
Yeah.
that's what I mean when I say like our cousins and our kin. It's all Semitic languages. Yeah. Yeah.
I will sometimes walk past. I'll overhear a conversation of Assyrian, and I turn around.
A lot of khs and qas and yeah. Yeah, having spoken it, I it makes Arabic and Hebrew more accessible too. Like
Yeah,
for example, life is in Assyrian is chaye, in Hebrew it's chaim, and in
yeah,
Arabi it's hayat. So it's all
yeah,
so similar. And of course, there are differences in different regional accents. Like I think Iraqi Arabic has the Akkadian Assyrian influence in it, so it sounds a little more ha 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 than say Lebanese Arabic, or that's been interesting, is learning about the different influences. As we had Vane in for voice and diction, or excuse me, for dialects and voice, for the Iraqi American Assyrian dialect. Um, it was interesting thinking about how to explain it. And I was like, well, we have the Akkadian Assyrian influence from the empires. And then we also have Arabic influence, because that's what like our parents grew up. We have some Turkish influence, some Kurdish influence because it's along the borders, some Farsi influence because it's around the borders. And then English influence because of the colonizing
Right?
aspect from England, and then the American influence from having lived in the diaspora. So it's the Iraqi American Assyrian accent is it's kind of a confluence of so many things.
I have to tell you the other night, and this was, you know how YouTube feeds present all
Oh
sorts
yeah,
of interesting things.
yeah.
I came across an Assyrian Church of the East liturgy
Oh yes, yeah.
that was taking place at a church in Sweden,
Mhm.
and it was entirely in Assyrian and Arabic.
Mhm.
And I just started watching, and I thought, oh, I'll watch this for a few minutes. And I ended up watching like over an hour of
Hours.
this liturgy. I
It's a
was
long
so,
process. We have like 4 hours worth of church every Sunday.
yeah, I was so taken by it. And I loved the interplay of the languages. And, you know, I grew up in the Orthodox Church and the Eastern Church. So I was very familiar. And yet there were these different sort
Yeah,
of traditions or components.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I
Yeah.
just, it was a captivating.
Yeah, I'm sure. The church Assyrian will also include Aramaic in it. So even as an Assyrian speaker, when I go to church, I go, huh? What? Oh, wait, what was that word? That sounded like an ancient one. Yeah.
And just picking that out, you know, we have a village, perhaps you've heard of it in Syria called Malula.
Mm.
And Malula to this day speaks Aramaic. You know, it is sort of revered for speaking the language Jesus spoke.
Mm.
And so it's interesting you say that about Aramaic because I found myself thinking, oh, I think there may be some Aramaic
For
here.
sure. I love that. The hymns are so beautiful too.
Oh my
I
God.
love going to church for the hymns too. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know, I referred to Assyrians in Chicagoland. I mean, obviously, the much of the play takes place in Chicago and North Suburban Niles. There are more Assyrians living outside West Asia or the Middle East than in West Asia today. Greater Chicago is home to the world's largest community of Assyrians. And this means the Assyrian story is primarily a diasporic story for the first time in thousands of years. Many, including myself, hope that the Assyrian presence in West Asia will experience a revival and rebirth, that the Assyrian communities in Iraq, Syria, Turkey, Iran will again grow and thrive and not continue to shrink and disappear. But even if that happens, the diaspora will exist, and we wish it continued prosperity and vitality. What are your hopes for the future of Assyrian storytelling in Chicagoland and throughout the diaspora? And who are the storytellers, other than yourself, of course, that you are most excited about? Storytellers from the theater and also from other artistic mediums.
My hopes for it is that it continues to grow. I'm seeing more theater artists. I mean, the first play that I did after most recently, after I moved to New York, I came back and I did Lealina at the Goodman, which is written by M. Yusuf Zibari, who's Assyrian. And I remember being like, wow, I've been doing this for over a decade, and this is the first time I get to tell an Assyrian story written by an Assyrian person. Um, and so that was exciting to me, knowing I was developing my play and that it had a shot to be in the season at Lookingglass, and now, of course, now it is. Um, and seeing Ishu Rasho, who did Dummy in Diaspora at the Fringe Festival and recently in Chicago. So I'm seeing us start to tell our own stories, and I'm excited for that. And getting to meet more Assyrian actors and Assyrian theater artists is exciting to me. And so I hope it continues to grow in that way. Um, theater artists who I'm excited about, of course, Iraq but funny director extraordinaire Dalia Ashurina, playwright and actor I just mentioned, M. Yusuf Zabari. They're currently working on their new play Dunya with, I believe it's been commissioned by the Goodman. Actor and playwright Ishurasho, who I just mentioned. Matiko David, who I worked with on Lealina. He's based out of Flint, Michigan, but he acts here in Chicago, and just a wonderful force and kind human being. H. Edoni Ishu, who I just learned about. He was in The Cave, Sadia Rafai's play at Red Orchid. Director and actor Jonathan Shabu, who also helped us out with some workshops. Christopher Khoshaba, of course. Yortana Soleiman, who's in our covers, in our play, and our cast. There's an IG influencer comedian named Ramina Rated is her IG, and the Assyrian community is so in love with her, and she is so funny. This is more like hair and chemistry arts. Bounce Curl is a hair company, a hair product company, owned and operated and developed. Like the products are literally developed by hand by this person, Marianne Odishu, who is an Assyrian woman. There's a dancer named Ashtar Ashursin, who's a dancer, poet, actor extraordinaire. Ramina Hermes is a chef extraordinaire. Joe Snell, Diane Pithieu are both broadcasting. I believe Diane Pithieu is here in Chicago on network. I don't want to say the wrong one. I believe it's ABC7. And visual arts, Larsakina. There's a visual artist named Noon who will be displaying in the lobby as well, a part of that lobby gallery wall that Kareem, Molly, and Nari are putting up. Media productions and podcasting. There's this wonderful production company called Indigenous Roots Productions, and that's headed by Shmuel Tammo. And Meso Portrayal and Assyrian Podcast. You can find them on IG and on Spotify, I believe. And they are uplifting even more Assyrian folks, OGs and newcomers all alike. So there's more resources there for folks to check out. I'm excited about all these things. I love hate social media, but one thing I've really loved about it is I've found Assyrians who are in the creative world as well in a way that I hadn't had access to before. And I'm really thrilled by that. I'm really thrilled to see all the various creative avenues that we're exploring.
And Assyrian podcasters.
I know,
right? I would blank on names right now, so forgive me, but I've come across sort of random Assyrian podcasters who are doing really interesting work.
Yeah. There's So, and also something I discovered was the more we put out there, the more we also learn about ourselves. For example, and we have resources like researching images for this play. Try researching, Ottoman Empire Assyrian costume, 1915 Assyrians. Photography wasn't huge back then in the villages, but thankfully people did take photographs, and we have photographs of those costumes and the way people lived. But the documenting part of existing while you have to flee for your life, a lot of documenting gets lost. And so what we have is our language, our schools, our internal family documentation. And so now I'm excited for this new wave where we all, thank God, we are not fleeing for our lives if we're in diaspora, technically. And so we have a moment to stop and cultivate and create. And in doing that, we are providing resources for future generations. For example, when we needed to teach the Assyrian American Iraqi dialect, it's a specific one, and we looked to the Assyrian podcast to see who was interviewed and how we can use those as references for the actors. So everything helps. Everything helps each other, especially in the creative arts. And that's something I'm really excited for.
I love that. And that is so important because so much of the project is about continuity and being able to impart cultural knowledge and memory and wisdom to successive generations. I will say, and maybe I'm crazy, but I am not giving up on the hope that some Assyrians are able to return
Oh,
to
yes. Yeah.
their ancestral homelands.
Yeah.
And
Same.
that idea of reviving, and, whether it's a part-time return, whatever that might look like, but just not to lose that connection. I was in Hasaka and Kamishli in the northeast of Syria. This was many years ago, and we're from Western Syria, from near the coast. But um, I remember that Assyrian Syriac presence, and of course the Kurdish uh, presence. And I have often thought, because I've heard about villages that were destroyed or people who fled, or this kind of thing, that I want to see that, God willing, uh, revived, and the return of the ancient communities. There have been some stories in Turkey. There have been some stories in Iraq. So
Yeah.
I just feel I need to put that,
Yes. Yeah. Thank you for revisiting that. I think my brain was trying to process, but yes, there are groups. One that comes to mind. There are many groups, but one that comes to mind is called Gishru, which means bridge. And they every year they do a trip. They gather folks and they do a trip back to the homelands. Um, I hope to be a part of it someday. Like I hope to save up and like go someday. And of course within our families too. I don't know. I know for my family and I know for even my extended family, there's always talk of like, oh, when we go back or when we visit or when we do this. There's always a longing for home. My dad named us after I remember a couple of years ago I asked like how did you come up with our names? And it was me, my brother, and my sister, my dad, um, and my mom sitting at the table. My oldest brother wasn't there, but I asked him, how'd you come up with our names? And he said, well, when you're far from home, you you want to build home where you have it. My name means homeland. Atra means homeland. And so he built home where he could. So there is always a longing to go back. And I have a hope for that too. I'm glad you said that. You're not crazy for saying that. I'm crazy for forgetting to talk about the very thing that one of the most important things to Syrians.
Sharing about your names. I think that's really powerful. And naming is such an intimate and deeply personal
Mhm.
process. And for your dad to use it as a way to, on some level, reclaim um, home,
Yeah.
and as you said, reestablish that sense of home. I think there's something really special in that. What is next on the? I mean, next, of course, is opening a show and running a show. I
Next
don't.
is studying my book. Yeah. Yeah.
But what is post Iraq but funny, and I say that with the hope that it gets many productions in many cities, and has a rich and long life.
Thank you. I have a few scripts that I've been kicking around. Some of them are plays and some of them are like film scripts or on-screen scripts. And so hopefully getting a chance to develop those and work on those. Um, Continuing auditioning, as is the actor's game. And yeah, yeah, seeing where we go with this little 100-year train ride.
I'm hoping we can lasso you back to Chicago on a
Always
more
happy to
regular
come back.
basis.
The food cannot be beat. I'm so sorry, but I'm always happy to come back. I'll eat my way through Chicago any day.
Big fans of the food scene in Chicago. Well, listen, Iraq But Funny runs May 29th through July 20th at downtown Chicago's Lookingglass Theater, which is at 163 East Pearson Street. at the southeast corner of Pearson and Michigan. For more information and to purchase tickets, visit lookingglasstheater.org. That's theater, R-E, not E-R. Atra Asdou, thank you. Break a leg, congratulations, much admiration and adoration and love and appreciation.
Thank you so much, Jamil. Thank you, Silk Road family, for amplifying over the years and also on this show. It means the world, and I'm so excited to share in this with you.
Thank you. And a big thanks to all of you tuning in. To learn more about Silk Road Cultural Center, please visit us at silkroadculturalcenter.org. Until next time, thank you for supporting live theater. May God bless and protect you.